Nobody in the colony of New Portland knew where it came from. The huge creature was as big as a small cargo ship. It would land on the street corner outside Miller's Bakery with surprising gentleness. Its scales changed colors between deep red and shiny copper in the early morning light. Its wings folded against its body like a big cloak. But the most surprising thing was that the dragon never did anything except sit there and breathe. Danny Miller had noticed this pattern on the very first day. He was pulling the first batch of sourdough bread from the ovens when the security alarm went off. The alarm warned him that a large creature was outside. His heart almost stopped beating when he checked the security camera and saw those huge shining eyes staring at his bakery. But the dragon did not attack. It did not roar or make threats. It simply sat down on the cobblestones that the colonists had carefully placed to remind them of Earth. The dragon closed its eyes and breathed in deeply through its nose. Now, 3 weeks later, Danny had grown almost comfortable with his strange visitor. He even started planning his baking schedule around when the dragon arrived. There was something oddly nice about watching the creature's face become soft and peaceful when the smell of fresh bread came through the air vents. "You are doing it again," said his sister Katie as she came in for her work shift. She hung her coat on the hook and tied her apron on with quick, practiced movements. "You are baking for the dragon." "I am baking for the customers," Danny said, but he could not look at her when he said it. "The dragon just happens to be outside." "Sure," Katie said. She walked to the front window and looked out at their unusual visitor. "You know the Colonial Council wants it gone, right? Governor Phillips has been complaining that it scares away business." Danny made a sound of disbelief. "Business has gone up 3 times since it showed up. People come from 3 districts away just to see it." This was true. What started as fear had changed into fascination. The dragon never moved from its spot. It never threatened anyone. It never even growled. It just sat there from before sunrise until around 9 in the morning, breathing in the smell of fresh bread. Then, as mysteriously as it came, it would spread its huge wings and fly away into the wild lands beyond the colony's borders. The scientists who studied alien life were confused. Dragons were not supposed to exist at all. But here they were on Kepler 442b, humanity's newest colony world. The creatures had been discovered and catalogued shortly after the humans landed. They lived in the volcanic mountain ranges to the north. They were top predators, very protective of their territory, and they stayed away from human settlements. Except for this one. "I think it is lonely," Danny said quietly. He surprised himself by saying this out loud. Katie turned from the window. "What? Look at it." Danny pointed to the image on his tablet screen, which showed the dragon's face in detail. Its eyes were closed, and there was something almost peaceful about how it looked. "It is not here to scare us. It is not even here for the bread itself. It just wants to smell it." Why would a dragon care about bread smell? Danny pulled another batch from the oven. The crust was golden and perfect. The smell of yeast and wheat filled the bakery. On the screen, he saw the dragon's nose holes get bigger as it breathed in deeply. Maybe it reminds the dragon of something. Or maybe it just likes the smell. Does the reason matter? "It might matter," Katie said. She crossed her arms. "The council meeting is tonight. They are talking about actions to take. Fences. Ways to scare it away. Some of the security people want to use tranquilizer darts. That is crazy. It is not hurting anyone. Try telling that to Phillips." Danny put down his oven gloves and made a decision. "Then, I will go to the meeting." "Danny, wait. That dragon chose my bakery, Katie. Out of everything in this whole colony, it comes here. That has to mean something." He looked back at the screen, at the beautiful creature sitting peacefully in the morning light. "And I am not going to let them hurt it just because it likes how bread smells." Outside, not knowing about the politics happening around it, the dragon continued its morning routine. Inside its ancient mind, old memories moved like shadows. Memories of warmth. Memories of home. Memories of something precious that it had lost a very long time ago. And in the bakery, Danny Miller began preparing for a fight he never expected to have. He was going to defend a dragon's right to smell fresh bread. The morning customers started arriving. They took pictures of the dragon through the window. They bought bread and pastries. They whispered to each other about how beautiful and peaceful the creature looked. Some brought their children to see it. The children pressed their faces against the glass and stared with wide, amazed eyes. The dragon never moved. It just sat there with its eyes closed, breathing slowly and deeply, as if it was meditating, as if this simple act of smelling fresh bread was the most important thing in its world. Danny watched it between serving customers. He studied the old scars on its scales, the way its chest rose and fell with each breath, the slight smile that seemed to touch the corners of its mouth when a particularly good smell wafted out. This was not a mindless beast. This was something more, something that felt and remembered and chose to come here every single morning. And Danny was not going to let anyone take that away. Danny Miller stood in front of the Colonial Council chamber and felt his stomach twist into knots. The room was packed with people from every corner of New Portland. Farmers who grew vegetables in the hydroponic gardens sat next to engineers who kept the power running. Teachers mixed with miners and shopkeepers. Everyone had come to decide what would happen to the dragon. Governor Carl Phillips banged his wooden hammer on the desk 3 times. The room went quiet. Phillips was a thin man, with gray hair, who always looked like he had just eaten something sour. He stared at Danny with cold eyes. "We are here to talk about the dragon problem," Phillips said. Danny Miller asked to speak. "You have 5 minutes." "Mr. Miller." Danny stood up. His hands were shaking. He was a baker, not a speechmaker. He looked back at his sister Katie in the crowd. She smiled at him and nodded. It helped a little. "The dragon outside my bakery is not dangerous," Danny began. His voice sounded too quiet. He cleared his throat and tried again. "For 3 weeks, the dragon has done nothing except sit peacefully and smell the bread. It does not hurt people. It does not break things. It just sits there." "It is a predator," said Marcus Webb. He was the head of colony security. His voice was loud and firm. "We have watched these creatures kill animals as big as earth elephants. Just because it has not attacked yet does not mean it will not attack later." "But it has not attacked," Danny said, trying to keep his voice steady. "In 3 weeks, it could have done anything. Instead, it just sits there and breathes. Until it does not," Phillips said in a cold voice. "Mr. Miller, I understand your feelings, but we must think about the safety of more than 3,000 people. We cannot base our security on hope and watching a dangerous animal that likes the smell of bread." Some people in the room laughed nervously. Danny felt his face get hot. "It is not just about bread," Danny said. He could feel frustration building in his chest. "It is about understanding. We came to this planet as visitors. These creatures were here first. If one of them is trying to be peaceful with us, should we not try to understand why?" "Peaceful contact?" Webb made a sound like a laugh. "It is an animal, Miller. It does not have plans. It only has instincts." "Then why my bakery?" Danny asked, his voice getting stronger. "Why does it come at the same time every morning? Why does it leave without causing trouble? That is not random behavior. That is choice." Dr. Helen Park raised her hand. She was the colony's chief scientist who studied alien life. Phillips nodded at her. "I have been watching the video recordings." "Doctor," Park said, "Mr. Miller might be right. The dragon's behavior is very unusual for its species. These creatures normally stay alone and avoid any human smell. This one's actions suggest it is thinking and choosing, not just acting on instinct." "Thinking or obsessed," Phillips said. "Dr. Park, You yourself said these creatures were dangerous. I said they were apex predators. Park corrected him. That is not the same thing. A tiger is dangerous, but a tiger that sits outside your house and does not attack is showing control. That suggests intelligence. Or it is planning something, Webb muttered. Danny's hands closed into fists. You are talking about killing it, are you not? That is what this meeting is really about. The room went completely silent. Phillips looked at Webb before speaking. We are discussing options. Moving it to another location would be better, but if the creature refuses to leave or fights back, then we might have to consider other methods. No. Danny's voice came out louder than he meant it to. You cannot do that. Mr. Miller, I understand you have formed some kind of attachment to this creature, but we must think practically about what is best for the colony. It is not about attachment, Danny said. He looked around the room at all the faces watching him. It is about who we want to be. We left Earth because we wanted a new beginning. A chance to do things the right way this time. And the first time we meet something we do not understand, something that is not immediately useful to us, we are going to kill it? Nobody said anything about killing, Phillips said sharply. But it is an option, is it not? Danny met his eyes. Because that is always the easy answer when we are scared of something. Katie stood up from her seat in the audience. My brother is right. That dragon has become part of our community whether you like it or not. People bring their children to see it. Artists draw pictures of it. Half the people in the colony share photos of it on their devices. It is not just some dangerous animal anymore. It is our dragon now. Round. It is not our anything, Webb said firmly. It is a wild creature that could turn violent at any moment. So could you, Katie shot back. But we do not talk about getting rid of you. The room exploded with noise. People started arguing with each other. Phillips banged his hammer over and over, shouting for everyone to be quiet. It took several minutes before the noise died down. Phillips looked tired now. We will vote on this, he said. Everyone who agrees with implementing deterrent measures, including possible removal of the creature if necessary, raise your hand. Danny felt his heart sink as hands began to go up around the room. He counted them desperately in his head. 15 hands, 20 hands, 30 hands. More and more. Everyone opposed, raise your hand. More hands went up, but Danny could see it was not enough. He felt sick. The final count was 43 people who wanted the dragon gone, and 37 who wanted it to stay. The motion passes, Phillips announced. Mr. Webb, you will work with Dr. Park on the safest way to relocate the creature. We will try non-lethal methods first, but we must be prepared for all possibilities. Danny barely heard the rest of the meeting. People started leaving. Some of them came up to him and patted his shoulder or said they were sorry. It did not make him feel better. Outside in the hallway, Dr. Park caught up with him. Her face looked sad. I am sorry, Danny. I will do everything I can to make sure the dragon is not hurt during the relocation. When will you do it? Danny asked. His voice sounded flat and distant to his own ears. Tomorrow morning. We will have a team ready before the dragon arrives. If we are lucky, we can use tranquilizer darts to put it to sleep. Then, we can move it far enough away that it will not come back. If we are lucky. Danny thought about the dragon's peaceful face, the way it seemed to enjoy each breath of bread-scented air. What if it does come back? Dr. Park did not answer. She did not need to. Danny already knew what would happen then. That night, Danny could not sleep. He kept thinking about the dragon's eyes, so old and knowing. At 3 a.m, he gave up trying to rest. He got dressed and walked to the bakery in the dark. If this was going to be the dragon's last morning at his shop, he wanted to make it special. He was going to bake the best bread he had ever made in his entire life. Danny worked through the night with an intensity he had never felt before. This was not just bread. This was a gift. Maybe an apology. Maybe a goodbye. His hands moved through the familiar motions of kneading dough, shaping loaves, and checking oven temperatures. But his mind was somewhere else, thinking about questions that had no easy answers. By 5 in the morning, the bakery was filled with more types of bread than he had ever made in a single morning. Sourdough with herbs from earth seeds, cinnamon rolls covered with local honey, dark rye bread with seeds. He even made an experimental batch using grains from this planet that Dr. Park's team had said were safe for humans to eat. The smells mixed together, creating a wonderful combination of aromas that made the bakery feel alive. Katie arrived early and stopped in the doorway. What I should have done from the beginning. He pulled another tray from the oven. If they are taking the dragon away, I want its last morning here to be perfect. His sister's face softened. She did not say anything else. She just tied on her apron and joined him at the work table. Together, they baked as the darkness outside began to turn light. At exactly 5:47 inches the morning, the dragon arrived. Danny watched on the security camera as the magnificent creature settled into its usual spot. But something was different today. The dragon seemed restless. Its head kept turning. Its nose kept moving as it sniffed the air. Could it sense the trap being prepared? Did it somehow know this was the last time? The security team is setting up 2 blocks away, Katie said quietly, looking at her tablet. They have tranquilizer drones and a cargo lifter. Dr. Park convinced them to wait until 7 o'clock to give the dragon time to settle. 2 hours. Danny looked at his screens, at the bread cooling on the racks, at the dragon settling onto the cobblestones outside. 2 hours to say goodbye to something that had become important to him, even though it made no logical sense. He made a decision. I am going outside. What? Danny, no. If the dragon reacts badly, it will not. He was already untying his apron. Katie, I have watched this creature for 3 weeks. It is gentle. I know it is. You do not know that. Nobody knows that. Then I will find out. He grabbed a basket and began loading it with bread that was still warm. The crust made small cracking sounds under his fingers. Cover for me, if anyone asks where I am. Before his sister could say anything else, Danny was heading for the front door. His heart pounded hard as he stepped outside into the cool morning air. The dragon's head turned toward him immediately. Danny froze in place. Up close, the creature was even more magnificent than he had imagined. Each scale caught the light like polished metal. Its eyes were amber and gold, ancient beyond any measure of time. And they fixed on Danny with startling focus. Hey there, Danny said softly. He felt foolish talking to it, but he continued anyway. I brought you something. He took a slow step forward. The dragon did not move, but its nose holes got bigger as it caught the scent of the basket. Danny took another step, then another, until he was less than 10 feet away. At this distance, he could feel the warmth coming from the dragon's body. He could hear the deep rumble of its breathing. Slowly, Danny set the basket down on the cobblestones. Then, he did something that would have horrified the security team. He sat down cross-legged on the ground, beside the basket. They are going to move you today, he said quietly. The people in charge are scared. They do not understand why you come here. I am not completely sure I understand either, but I think it matters that you do. The dragon lowered its massive head, bringing its snout level with Danny's position. He could see his reflection in its eyes. Up close, he could make out scars on its scales, old wounds that had healed over time. This creature had lived a long life, and had survived things Danny could not even imagine. Bread reminds me of my mom, Danny continued. He surprised himself by saying this. She taught me to bake when I was 7 years old. It was our special thing. You know? Just her and me in the kitchen, flour everywhere, laughing at our mistakes. She died in the pandemic before we left Earth. Sometimes when I am baking, I swear I can feel her there with me, guiding my hands. The dragon's eyes half closed. It released a long, slow breath. The warmth of it washed over Danny. The breath carried a scent like cinnamon and smoke mixed together. Maybe that is why you come here, Danny said. Maybe the smell reminds you of something too. Someone you lost. Somewhere you used to be. He reached into the basket and broke off a piece of bread. He held it up. I know you do not eat this, but maybe you would like to smell it up close. Just once? The dragon's nose holes flared wide. It leaned forward with incredible slowness. Danny held perfectly still, as that enormous head came within inches of his hand. The dragon breathed in deeply, and Danny saw something in its eyes that looked almost like happiness, like peace. Then the dragon did something completely unexpected. It opened its mouth. Danny could see rows of teeth that could have killed him in an instant. But very gently, the dragon took the bread from his hand. It did not eat the bread. It just held it carefully between its teeth, as if accepting a gift. Danny! Katie's voice cracked with fear. She was standing in the bakery doorway. Get away from it! But Danny could not move. He was watching the dragon's eyes. He was seeing something in them that confirmed everything he had believed. This was not a mindless predator. This was a thinking, feeling being who had made a choice to come here every morning. The dragon carefully placed the bread down on the cobblestones. Then it raised its head. For a long moment, human and dragon looked at each other. Then the creature did something that made Danny's breath catch in his throat. It lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow. When it raised its head again, there was a sound in the distance. Engines. The security team was moving into position. The dragon heard it too. Its head swung toward the sound. For the first time since Danny had known it, the creature looked alarmed. It rose to its feet. Its wings began to unfold. Wait, Danny said urgently. But the dragon was already backing away. Its attention was fixed on the approaching vehicles. In moments, it would take flight and vanish. The security team would follow with their tranquilizers and cargo lifters. Unless Danny did something crazy. I am coming with you, he said. The dragon stopped moving. It looked back at him. Danny could hear Katie shouting something. He could hear the engines getting louder. But all he could focus on was the creature in front of him. If they are going to relocate you, I want to see where you go. I want to understand. He took a step toward the dragon. Please, let me come with you. The dragon tilted its head, studying him carefully. Then, in a movement both terrifying and graceful, it lowered its body to the ground. It extended one massive wing, like a ramp. Danny did not hesitate. He ran forward and grabbed onto the dragon's scales. He pulled himself up onto its back. The scales were warm under his hands. Each one was the size of his palm. He had barely found his grip when the dragon launched itself into the sky. Katie's scream faded below him as New Portland dropped away. Danny held onto the dragon's neck tightly. Wind whipped past his face. His heart raced with equal parts terror and excitement. They were flying. He was flying on the back of a dragon, soaring over the colony and out toward the wilderness beyond. The flight lasted 20 minutes that felt like both seconds and hours at the same time. Danny held tight to the dragon's scales as they flew over forests of purple-barked trees and rivers that glowed faintly in the morning light. Kepler 442b was beautiful from the air, wild and untouched in ways Earth had stopped being centuries ago. The dragon flew north, toward the volcanic mountains that the colonists had been warned to stay away from. As they got closer, Danny saw evidence of the dragon population. Massive shapes circled around thermal vents. Caves dotted the mountainsides. Far below, Danny could see what looked like territorial markings scratched deep into the rock. His dragon, and he was already thinking of it as his dragon, began to descend toward a specific mountain peak. As they approached, Danny saw something that made him forget his fear entirely. Carved into the mountainside was a structure. It was not a cave. It was not a natural rock formation. It was something built with clear purpose and design. The dragon landed on a wide ledge in front of the entrance. Danny slid off its back on shaking legs. Up close, the structure's purpose became clear. It was a memorial. The walls were covered in carvings. Danny approached slowly, running his fingers over the smooth stone. The images told a story. Dragons flying in formation. Dragons gathered around what looked like fires. Dragons building and creating things. These were not primitive scratches. They were art, sophisticated and intentional. And there, repeated throughout the carvings, was a symbol that made Danny's chest feel tight. Circles, representing bread. Dragons gathered around ovens. Scenes of what could only be described as dragons baking. "You used to bake," Danny whispered, as understanding came to him. "Your species. You had bakeries." The dragon had followed him inside. Now it settled beside a particular section of wall. Its eyes were fixed on a specific carving. Danny moved closer and saw what had captured its attention. An image of two dragons, one large and one small, working together at what was clearly an oven. The detail was extraordinary. You could see the affection in their posture. You could see the care in how they worked together. "Your family," Danny said softly. The dragon's eyes closed. A low sound came from deep in its chest. It was not a growl. It was a sound of grief so deep and profound that Danny felt tears spring to his own eyes. He sat down beside the dragon with his back against the cool stone wall. Around them, the memorial held silent testimony to a culture that had existed before humans arrived. A culture that had baked bread. A culture that had understood the comfort and community that came from sharing bread together. "What happened?" Danny asked, even though he did not expect an answer. But as he looked at the carvings more carefully, the story revealed itself. Scenes of prosperity and peace, then images of fire raining from the sky, meteors or volcanic eruptions. Some kind of disaster that had destroyed everything. The final carvings showed scattered survivors. Alone. The ovens cold and empty. The dragon had lost everyone. Its family, its community, its entire way of life. And then one morning, it had smelled something that it thought was gone forever. The scent of fresh bread, carried on the wind to the mountains. A reminder of what had been. So it had come every morning just to remember. Just to breathe in that scent and feel, for a moment, less alone. Danny's hands shook as he pulled out his communicator. He expected no signal this far from the colony, but apparently the relay towers had better range than he thought. He had 17 missed calls from Katie, 8 from Governor Phillips, and 3 from Dr. Park. He called Park first. "Danny, thank God. Are you hurt? Did the dragon harm you?" "I am fine, and you need to see this. All of you need to see this." Danny turned on his communicator's camera and began recording. He moved it across the memorial chamber. The dragons were not just predators. They had a civilization. They were people. He could hear Dr. Park's sharp breath as the images transmitted. "This is incredible. Danny, where are you?" "Northern Mountains. I can send you the exact location. But Dr. Park, you have to stop the relocation. The dragon that comes to my bakery is not a threat. It is a survivor. Maybe the last one who remembers what they used to be." There was a long pause. "I am looking at the footage now. This changes everything. Hold on. Phillips wants to talk to you." The governor's voice came through next. He sounded clipped and angry. "Miller, what you did was reckless and irresponsible. You could have been killed, but I was not. Governor, did you see the carvings? Dr. Park is showing me now. It is fascinating from an archaeological standpoint, but it does not change the fact that you put yourself in danger without authorization. They baked bread, Danny interrupted. These creatures had ovens. Governor, they understood community and tradition, and the comfort of warm bread in the morning. The dragon that comes to my bakery is not there by instinct. It is there because it remembers. Silence. Then Philip spoke again. His voice was different now, softer. You are saying it is mourning. I am saying it is doing what any of us would do if we lost everything. It is trying to hold onto the pieces, and we were about to take even that away from it. More silence. Danny could picture the governor looking at the images, at the undeniable evidence that this planet's dragons were more than they appeared to be. I will call off the relocation, Philip said finally. But Miller, this does not mean the dragon can just camp outside your bakery forever. We need protocols, safety measures, some kind of structure for this. What if it is not camping? Danny said. An idea was forming in his mind. What if it is coming home? What are you suggesting? Danny looked at the dragon, at the memorial chamber, at the ancient ovens carved into stone. Give me a week. Just 1 week. I think I can help it. Help it how? By teaching it to bake again. The dragon's head swung toward Danny, those amber eyes fixed on him with startling intensity. For a moment, Danny wondered if he had finally gone too far, if his empathy had gone beyond reality. Then the dragon lowered its head and very gently touched its nose to Danny's shoulder. The gesture was so human, so clearly a request, that Danny felt his throat tighten with emotion. 1 week, Philip said. But you are taking a security team with you. No teams, just me and Katie. And Dr. Park if she wants to document it. Danny kept his eyes on the dragon. This is not about security anymore. It is about healing. End quote. After he ended the call, Danny sat in the memorial chamber with the dragon. He watched the morning light paint the carvings in shades of gold. Outside, he could hear other dragons calling to each other. Their voices echoed across the mountains. His dragon answered with a call of its own. The call was deeper, older, carrying notes of invitation. You want them to see this too, do you not? Danny said. You want them to remember. The dragon's eyes were fixed on the horizon where New Portland lay hidden in the distance. And Danny understood. It was not enough for one dragon to remember. For their culture to truly come back to life, others needed to see what had been lost. They needed to smell the bread and feel that ancient recognition stirring inside them. Danny pulled out his communicator again and called Katie. I need you to pack supplies. Enough for a week. And bring your teaching tablet. The one with all the baking tutorials on it. Danny, are you insane? You want to teach dragons to bake? He laughed. The sound surprised him. Yes, I really do. And Katie? Bring extra flour. We are going to need a lot of it. Katie arrived the next morning with a cargo drone loaded with supplies and an expression of amused disbelief on her face. I cannot believe I am doing this, she said, watching as 3 more dragons circled overhead. They had been drawn by the first dragon's calls. I am going to teach apex predators to make croissants. Start simple, Danny suggested. Basic bread first. Dr. Park had come too, along with 2 security guards that she insisted on bringing. But the guards stayed well back, content to observe as Danny and Katie began the strangest baking class in human history. The first challenge was adapting the recipes. Dragons did not have hands, but they had incredible control with their wing claws. They also had surprising delicacy in their mouths. Danny's dragon, which Park had started calling Baker in her notes, proved to be an excellent student. It watched intently as Danny demonstrated kneading. Then it carefully copied the motions with its wing claws. The other dragons were more skeptical. They watched from the edges of the ledge, keeping their distance. But as the scent of baking bread began to fill the mountain air, they crept closer. They were drawn by something deeper than hunger. On the third day, one of the younger dragons approached the makeshift oven Katie had put together from their portable equipment. It sniffed carefully at the dough Danny was shaping. Then it looked at Baker with what could only be described as curiosity. Baker made a low sound, encouraging and patient. The young dragon reached out a wing claw to touch the dough. "Easy," Danny said quietly. "Gentle now." The young dragon pressed too hard at first. The dough tore. It pulled back, clearly frustrated. But Baker moved beside it, demonstrating the proper pressure. The young dragon tried again. This time, the dough held its shape. Katie captured it all on video. "This is incredible," she whispered to Dr. Park. "They are teaching each other." By the fifth day, they had 7 dragons participating. The memorial chamber had been transformed into a working bakery. Portable ovens ran continuously. Dragons took turns at each station. Some were better at kneading. Others excelled at shaping. It would call out in a specific tone whenever a loaf was ready to come out. Danny worked alongside them, both teacher and student at once. The dragons taught him about thermal vents that could be converted into natural ovens. They showed him local grains that their ancestors had cultivated. They demonstrated techniques encoded in the ancient carvings that he had missed on his first viewing. It was not just baking. It was an exchange of knowledge across species. On the 6th day, Baker did something extraordinary. It approached Danny, carrying something in its mouth. A stone tablet, carefully preserved. Danny recognized it immediately as a recipe, carved in the same style as the memorial images. The proportions and instructions were all laid out in dragon symbols. "You want me to make this?" Danny asked. Baker nodded. It was an unmistakably human gesture that it must have learned from watching him. Working together, they figured out the recipe. It called for grain Danny had never seen. So Baker flew off and returned with samples from a hidden valley where the plants still grew wild. The technique was complex, requiring patience and precision. But as Danny worked, he felt something profound happening. He was not just baking bread. He was helping bring back a dead art form. He was giving it back to people who thought it was lost forever. When the bread finally came out of the oven, golden and perfect, every dragon in the chamber went silent. The scent was different from anything Danny had made before. It was earthy and sweet, with notes of something almost like vanilla. Baker approached slowly, almost reverently, and breathed it in. The sound the dragon made broke Danny's heart and put it back together at once. It was joy and grief mixed together, relief and recognition. The dragon was remembering not just the bread, but everyone who had made it before. Everyone who was gone. The other dragons gathered close. For a moment, they were silent together, honoring their past. Then softly, they began to sing. It was a harmony that Danny felt in his bones. It spoke of loss and hope and continuity. That night, Danny sat with Katie and Dr. Park on the ledge, looking out at the stars. Behind them, dragons worked the ovens. The warm glow of fire painted their scales in shades of amber and gold. "What happens now?" Katie asked. "I think we help them rebuild," Danny said. "They cannot go back to what they were. Too much was lost. But maybe they can create something new. A combination of old traditions and new circumstances." "You mean integrate with the colony?" Park said thoughtfully. "Why not? We could learn from each other. They remember things about this planet that we are just discovering, and they clearly want to reclaim their culture. New Portland could be the place where that happens." "Governor Phillips will lose his mind," Katie said with a grin. "Let him," Danny replied. "Some things are more important than politics." On the 7th day, They flew back to New Portland, all of them. Danny and Katie rode on Baker's back, while 9 other dragons followed in formation. Dr. Park took a shuttle, documenting everything with her cameras. They landed in the plaza outside Miller's Bakery at exactly 5:47 inches the morning. Early risers stopped and stared as 10 dragons settled onto the cobblestones. Their wings folded. Their eyes were bright with anticipation. Danny opened the bakery. But this time, he did not work alone. Baker and 2 other dragons followed him inside. They moved carefully despite their size. Together, they began to bake. The word spread fast. By sunrise, half the colony had gathered to watch. Governor Phillips arrived with his security team, but whatever protest he had planned died on his lips when he saw dragons and humans working side by side. Flour-dusted scales and aprons alike. The first loaf came out at 7 in the morning. Danny broke it and shared pieces with the gathered crowd, human and dragon together. The bread tasted like hope, like community, like the future they could build together. "This is insane," Phillips said. But he was smiling. "This is absolutely insane." "This is New Portland," Danny corrected. "Where humans and dragons make bread together. Where we honor the past and build something new. That is why we came to the stars, is it not? To find new ways of being." Phillips took a piece of bread and bit into it. His eyes widened. "This is incredible. What did you do?" "We combined recipes, dragon techniques with human ingredients, old traditions with new ideas." Danny looked at Baker, who was carefully shaping dough with surprising skill. "They remember how to do this, Governor. They just needed someone to believe they could." Over the following weeks, Miller's Bakery became something unprecedented. It became a collaborative space where humans learned from dragons and dragons learned from humans. The colony had to adjust. They had to create new protocols for this strange integration. But it worked. Other dragons came down from the mountains, drawn by the scent of bread and the promise of reconnection. Not all of them stayed, but enough did. They taught the colonists about the planet's ecology. They shared knowledge about surviving in the wilderness. They offered perspectives shaped by millennia of living on this world. In return, humans shared their technology, their stories, their different ways of understanding. The memorial in the mountains became a place of pilgrimage for both species. New ovens were built, using a combination of dragon engineering and human technology. The ancient recipes were recovered, adapted, kept alive. And every morning at 5:47, Baker still came to Danny's bakery. But now it did not just sit outside and smell the bread. Now it came inside, picked up an apron specially designed for dragon anatomy, and baked alongside the human who had seen past its scales to the grief and hope underneath. One morning, as they worked together in the pre-dawn quiet, Baker did something it had never done before. It spoke, not in words, but in a series of sounds that Danny's translation software picked up clearly. "Thank you." Danny looked up from his dough. His eyes stung with tears. "You are welcome. Thank you for trusting me." Baker's eyes gleamed with something that looked like joy. Then it returned to its work, and Danny returned to his. Together, they made bread that smelled like home to 2 different species who had found, against all odds, a way to understand each other. Outside, the sun rose over New Portland, painting the colony in shades of gold. Humans and dragons moved through the streets, beginning their day. And in a bakery that had become a bridge between worlds, the ovens burned warm, the bread rose perfect, and the future was being shaped one loaf at a time. The dragon had waited outside the bakery every morning, only to smell fresh bread, until the owner understood that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is helping them remember who they used to be and who they still could become. And in remembering, they had all found something they had not known they were looking for. A new way forward. Together. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.